Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to my $150 a week investing series, and tragedy has struck on our portfolio. Oh my god, we were up so well, we were doing so good, up to $1,800, and then we just took a complete wash, all the way down to $1,300, $1,330, and then we bounced back to about $1,650. Sorry for my leave of absence. I felt I just needed to take a break after all that madness going on with the CS2 market. And as well, I just didn't have any money to make this series because during that crash, as I talked about in my market crash video, I put a lot of money down, money that I didn't necessarily have, but I was so confident in my analysis of the market and my thesis, I guess, that I had to put as much money as I could. And yeah, I bought that Talon Ruby and or not Talon Nomad Ruby and those Spearmint gloves, which are doing very very well right now. And we'll take a look at that in a minute. But I also bought a shit ton of cases, stuff that I didn't talk about in that video. So basically in a day I spent thousands and thousands of dollars. So I didn't have any $150 a week to go invest into the CS2 market as I like to do with these videos. And then the weekend after that was just, Halloween weekend. So I was out for the entire weekend, Halloween, all of that. So took a little bit of a hiatus, 2 weeks, and now we're back better than ever. The market has stabilized a bit. It's still a shaky market out there, but you know, as we have figured out, shaky times, uncertain times can be some of the best moments to make some of the most money and take the most profit, especially when you're confident in the things that you're investing into. As I have always been, I've always been extremely confident in the CS2 market. I have not sold a single thing in the past couple months. I've just continued to bought over the dip when everybody thought the CS2 market was dead, and as always, buying has always done very well for me, even in previous crashes. Cases are doing very, very well right now. It goes to show how solid cases are, the way that they have bounced back in this market hype, or market crash, I mean. Especially things like Gamma 2. I mean, the crash was like a day. If you didn't get in that first day, the prices rebounded so fast that they're even more expensive than before the crash in some cases. Um, so you're looking at something like the Gamma 2 case on FloatDB, $3.54. I mean, this is a crazy graph. This, for me, if I were a new investor, this would automatically make me want to put all of my money that I'm willing to invest into CS2 into cases. Just the strength and resilience that these cases have shown, and this basically shows us that this is the fixed price, and that cases aren't going to go any lower anytime soon, possibly ever. I don't think that cases will ever go any lower than these price points that we saw maybe a year ago or during the crash. Because if we look at the crash prices, $2.22, that's prices from, you know, not even a year ago, about a year ago. So, yeah, these prices are very, very, very strong, and I would be investing into rare cases. And I think that in the long term, the trade up contracts, the knife trade up contracts, are only going to make cases even more desirable, even rare, and are only going to make the fundamentals of opening cases even better and more profitable. And is going to be better for the average unboxer to have reds have more value, compared to the golds used to have. Um, for me personally, I never enjoyed opening cases. I would open a couple every once in a while. And whenever I did get a red, I would always be pissed because 90% of the time, the red is going to suck unless you're going for a case that specifically has good reds. Like, I don't know, maybe you're opening a winter offensive case to get an M4 Asimov or something, or a Bravo case to specifically get the Fire Serpent. most of the time you're going to get something like a P250C later, which back in the day was $5 to $10 or less, and now that's actually worth something. So I think that cases are going to continue to have high demand, high unboxing rates, and as the prices of golds go up, um, there's going to be this new balance between reds and golds, and we're going to find the exact ratio very, very soon, I feel like, of how much value is going to be stored in reds versus golds. Because if trade ups are too profitable, people are going to spam those trade ups and the value of reds are going to go up. But at the end of the day, a lot of the value does come from those golds. And as we talked about in the previous video, I don't think that this new trade up system, trading up to golds, is going to make that big of a difference in the long term for the supply of golds. So I think they're going to be just as expensive as they were before the market crash. I think it's going to take a while for them to get up there, back to the OG prices, but we're already getting there, especially for a lot of the higher tier golds. The lower tier golds will take a lot longer to start rising in price again, to get back to even close to where they were before the market crash, because there's been an influx in those undesirable knives that, of course, are undesirable. There's not any demand there. The kind of knives that people have just to have a starter knife, if you will, which is good, I feel like. I feel like those knives being cheaper is great. We can get people who are new to be able to afford some of those cheaper knives. Maybe knives are coming down from the cheapest ones were like $100 before, now they're 65 or whatever. I think that's great. I think getting lower tier budgets, getting people with lower tier budgets into the scene, people putting some money down, especially into something like a knife, which is just one of the core elements of someone's loadout. So overall, I really enjoy this update, and I like this update, and it hasn't changed the fundamentals of cases and why cases are desirable. And I don't think it really heavily changed the fundamentals of knives either, which is why I put so much money into these two items, which I am up massively on. Just to take a quick look, lowest price, $3,100. Look at this price graph here. Spiked all the way down, and this spiked even lower. This is at 1683. I bought at 1300, so it was like down over here if the graph were to keep going where I bought. And it's very surprising that it didn't get reversed. The person that I did buy from had a very big inventory, so if they reversed all their trades, they would have gotten screwed, honestly. They got screwed either way, to be honest. I mean, you shouldn't have been selling back then. And massive W to everyone who was buying, who did follow my advice, who did buy golds. Told you so, but, I feel like it was only logical. You kind of just look at the numbers. There simply isn't enough supply. And then when people said October 30th, I knew that there's going to be so many people coming back to reinvest that it was going to buffer out with the little bit of incoming supply that was going to come in. And as well, the people who already were going to quick sell had already quick sold everything on that first day, on the first drop. So people doing those trade ups to make new knives, why would they trade up those knives just to quick sell them a week later at an even lower price when everybody kind of knew, quote unquote, that the price was going to drop on that day? It just doesn't seem logical that people would be wanting to dump on that same day. So yeah, the prices have kept steady and even gone up in a lot of cases. So easy $1,500, $1,800 printed out of thin air right there. This one doing a little bit not as good. I mean, the Moto gloves had a lot more potential. I mean, these were up very, very high. And I think anything from the glove case is going to be a great investment. I think even at these inflated prices for the Dragonfire, I don't think you can go wrong. I mean, we're looking at crazy, crazy prices for the Dragonfire. Spiking up. That is ridiculous. I haven't even looked at this graph yet. But as I said, it makes sense because the supply, it doesn't make sense. There aren't enough in existence to actually make a difference in the supply of golds. And as we know, these golds are very, very, very expensive. Pandora's box gloves, Moto Glove spearmints, superconductors. And the only two cases that you can get these gloves out of are the glove case and the Operation Hydra case. So it is only natural that these reds now are going to take a massive percentage of that potential value that you could get out of a trade up. If you get factory new Dragonfires here, just to look for an example, I mean, ridiculous prices, $590 for a Dragonfire. But if you think about it, you could potentially get factory new Pandora's box gloves, and those are going to run you 40, 50K. So I think these are just going to keep going down in supply. People are going to chase those, dream gloves. People are going to do these trade ups. Would I be investing at $600? I don't know. It is a very tough bullet to bite, especially since you could have bought for $63 the day before the update. And even after the update dropped, 230, 185, I don't know. It's hard to say whether I would be investing into this item. Me personally, I would not. In the long term, I think you could be okay, but the spike in price is just very, very hard to swallow. Um, so personally, I always want to be investing into things with really good fundamentals. Um, and I don't like to ride hype trains. I like to try to look for those more understated investment opportunities, things that might be a little bit lower, things I believe in. I do believe in something like the Dragonfire. I think that in the long, long term, this is going to be a good investment. I think right now, though, is a bit risky to be buying or even selling. I think this is just a hold, and I'm not too sure. I can't say where this is gonna go. It could go higher. It could crash down. But even if it does crash, it's gonna only crash partially, and it's gonna hold a lot of this value. So even if you bought in at $200 and it crashes to 300, 400, I still wouldn't be selling. Um, but yeah, I think right now is a bit risky to get in, especially after something's 10x in price. Invest at your own risk. It could be a good investment in the long term. Just another example I want to look at, specifically looking at the glove case itself. Before the crash, before the update, 1180, 1170, 1140, crashing down to $7.71. And I was picking these up at $6 on buy orders, $6.50, even $7 just straight off the market. And now they spiked up back to 1240, and now 2 weeks later we're up to 1290, lowest listed on the market. For our higher budget investors, I would highly recommend the glove case at all times, at any price. I think the glove case is one of the best cases that you can invest into. People say it's too expensive, but I don't think it can ever be too expensive when the gloves inside are Pandora's box gloves, factory new. That can be worth $50,000. The only case that you can get these OG gloves from, except the Hydra, but that's even more expensive, $30. So I don't think you can ever go wrong with the glove case or things inside the glove case. So the Dragonfire, potentially can be a great investment. I would just personally see if it drops down a little bit more. Any of the other fillers. I think this just makes skins in general more valuable. Every single filler trades up to a red, reds trade up to golds, so everything is constantly depleting. It makes me want to invest into cases even more. Even on a case that doesn't have as good of golds, I think that people are still going to keep unboxing those gloves or unboxing those cases. Something like the gallery case. The gallery case is a hot topic of discussion right now because people consider cases with bad golds to be less valuable now because you can trade up to the golds from whatever's in the case, the reds in the case. And I just don't necessarily think that's true. The supply on these golds is extremely low for a modern case. If you look at other cases in this category, especially something like the fever case, we're looking at 400,000, 500,000 plus. If we look at the dreams and nightmares, there's like over 600,000 night wishes registered on FloatDB, under 100,000 registered on FloatDB for the gold tooth. And as we know, this is now a discontinued case. We're not going to be getting any more of these cases ever again. This is an ever depleting supply, a fixed amount of supply for every single skin in this case. The amount of reds is going to be ever depleting. Even if they get unboxed and traded up, they can still be traded up to knives. I think there's still going to be lots of demand in the future. We'll see next month when the case tracker websites kind of level out. I understand that a lot of those case tracker websites get their data from something like float.db, and FloatDB has been, a bit messed up recently because of the massive influx of skins being registered, and it's just been a really odd month overall. I would take all of the unboxing numbers that you see with a grain of salt. Something like the gallery case is up to 1.6 million in theory, which I don't think is necessarily accurate. Especially when the month prior we were looking at 1 million or under 1 million unboxed a month. And there was a period there where people weren't unboxing cases because people were scared. So I think that all these numbers are screwed up for the month. We should come back to something like this in the next couple weeks. Oh, I didn't even notice this. See, it says there's a warning at the top that says that these numbers are very inaccurate right now. So it is hard to get an actual grasp on how many cases are being unboxed post update. It's going to be some very interesting statistics to look into in the next coming months of how many cases are being continued to unbox. But even if it's a lower amount, even if we went from 1 million cases unboxed a month to 800,000, 600,000 cases unboxed each month, again, this is a discontinued case, and the supply is going to be going down until the end of time. I do think this is still a fantastic investment, and I think it's great to hedge against your previous investments. Maybe you invested before the update. Maybe you invested at $1.40, $1.50, even $1.60. You can always double down. Just double down. Don't sell. And increase and strengthen your position on this and reduce your average cost base so that, in the future you can make profit if you're holding for the long term. So my very first investment for this video is going to be the gallery case. I heavily believe in the gallery case. I believe in all discontinued cases. I even sometimes invest into expensive discontinued cases now. Even at those inflated prices of $10, $6 for shatter webs or whatever. So we're going to pick some of these up. I do want to put a majority of our money today into the gallery case just because I think that this is a fantastic opportunity. And, even in the past, cases with bad golds still often do very, very well. Discontinued cases often do very well, as history has shown us. So I think a discontinued case with, relatively bad golds will still do well. And me personally, I still really like the kukri knife. I think it has a great pull-out animation. Good finishes. I think it looks like a good knife. It's like a better Bowie knife, in my opinion. But either way, 80 gallery cases at $1.20 each comes out to $96. And I'm just gonna check these out now because I've had this problem where I wait and like continue talking and start talking about the next item, and then like things get stolen out of my cart, and then it's like a pain in the ass to go redo everything. So just gonna buy these now, and we'll keep track of it. When thinking about my next investment, generally, especially right now in this extremely volatile market, I want to stick to safe investments I know are vetted, and that's usually going to be cases and discontinued items. I think that right now could be a really, really good opportunity to double down or triple down on discontinued armory stickers. Things like the Hypnotize Hollow and the Fly High and the Ribbon Tie. Ribbon Tie being a really good opportunity, I think, at a minus 25% change. But again, that's still another more volatile item. And personally, when I'm looking to make these new investments, I'm very adverse to risk right now, and I want to stick to things that I know and items that I believe in. And the number one item that I believe in is cases. Um, I think that's the safest investment that you can be making right now in the CS2 market. Um, Very volatile market. People don't know where things are going. People are still skeptical. I think that you can't go wrong with cases, and cases are a no-brainer. Um, which cases to avoid? I think I haven't really looked into it that much yet, but cases that share the same golds, like say the clutch golds, I think that cases like the clutch case and I think it shares its gold with the revolution case. I think those are going to be a little bit less desirable now because you have more options for reds to trade up to, the vice gloves. So I think those are less popular options right now. I would stick to cases that the golds are quite exclusive to that case. So one of those cases that I'd be thinking of is the Gamma 2 case. Great golds, and you can only get those golds at the Gamma 2 case. So they're pretty exclusive, and they're a old rare drop pool case. So that's going to be my next investment, Gamma 2 cases. For the gallery cases, I think I put $96 or something like that. So I'm gonna put like another $50 into the Gamma 2 cases, and yeah. Either way, guys, we're gonna be getting back into getting consistent on this YouTube grind. Again, I just had to take a little bit of a hiatus. I just dumped money that I don't have into the CS2 market, and just recovering up my funds, letting the market stabilize a bit. And also just the way my brain works, I fixate on different things at different times. Like, it's hard to keep focus on one specific thing, and it's easy to lose momentum and motivation. But I do really care about Counter-Strike. Just sometimes my interest goes in waves. But, we're going to try to keep consistent with the CS2 investing content going forward. But, we've been making great gains recently. My last video kind of going semi-viral, at least for, my state. I only have 2,000 subs, and then that video got like 30K views, which was pretty cool. One of the first people out there voicing an opinion on why I thought the market was due to go back up. So, it was a cool opportunity to get some new viewers and views. So, yeah, thank you everybody for all the support, and I'll see you next week.